unleashed. Last but still lethal, last to hold the crown, cause no nigga was equal. My villain origins is the reason for my performances. Remember all the pain, then I put it in all my choruses. Was my getaway, my right rabbit, my man had I ain't never been no wonderland. Still fuck Dallas in a different parallel. I parallel the bends, I'm sticking that competition. Walking the studios with gold chains and rolling arms. Do we rob them or lend mine? The entourage had the lemon brought to you by my villain. They smash state.
Oh yeah, good morning boys, hope you're well. 10 days out from the WNBF Worlds out in LA, which is absolutely surreal. We are closing in now. I was about to say the peak week's right around the corner, but the peak's pretty much started, but when the peak properly begins, we'll start the kind of quote-unquote peak week vlogs, and obviously I will be documenting the whole process, journey, travels off to America as well, when we do fly out next week, which would be cool, and kind of documenting that on the YouTube channel I think would be cool. So yeah, that is where we're at. We're obviously going to touch up on where we're at, but took you through my morning. That is how every single morning looks for me upon wake. I get up, I brush my teeth, I check in, I weigh in, then I check in, then I do my vacuums, then I do my planks, then I get my morning drink, little digestion drink made up, then I'm straight out on a little 20 to 30 minute walk every single morning, depending on the kind of step goal for that day. So today is Wednesday, we have a pool day on the cards today, but after I chat we'll also touch upon when it comes to prep. But morning chat, a couple things to go over today. First of all, when you strip bodybuilding down to its core, literally all it is following a plan. Like, it's literally that easy. Obviously following the correct plan, but all it is following a plan. And if you really think about it, all it is literally just doing the basic necessities of life, but just to a high quality and also training. So what I don't want you to see is when people say you don't have time to make progress, you don't have time to, especially looking at interesting coaches, you said that they always say, oh, they don't have time, like, I've got this going, I'm busy, it's like, oh, you're sleeping, you're going to be training, so there's always to be stress in your life. There's always going to be a reason why you can't do this. But it's you choose to either let that excuse, happen and stop you from doing what you want to do, progressing forward, or you simply choose to not let it happen and you choose to progress forward despite everything going on in your life. I love saying in the podcast the other day, the people who make the progress, people who succeed in life aren't the ones who have the easiest path or the stress-free life, etc. It's the ones who, when there is a little bump in the road, when there is, a little excuse present, that they get by that and they don't let it stop their flow, their momentum, and that's the ones who succeed. And again, like, no matter if you're doing this process with a coach, with a friend, with a family member, at the end of the day, it's down to you. It's down to you to keep going every single day, ticking the boxes, training hard, progressing forward. Even when you have a coach, at the end of the day, it's down to you. They're not going to do the work for you. So just realise that, within this process, it's down to you. No one's come to save you. It's quite literally down to you. So you need to get up off your ass and get to my fucking work and get systems, routines in place. Once again, when I wake up at the exact same time, go to bed at the exact same time, I eat my meals at the exact same time. I don't need to think about it, I just do it, and it doesn't matter how I feel. Like, how you feel should not dictate your actions for that day. And if that is you, it's not being a little bitch. Pretty much is my word there, because if your actions for your day are dictated by how you feel, etc., I don't want to do this, like, you're just going to fail. It's that simple. You're just going to fail. So you need to get systems and routines in place where you don't necessarily even need to think about it. You just do it. So yeah, that is the morning chat. It's up to you. If you want to progress forward, it's quite literally a choice of doing what you would do on a daily basis anyway, i.e. eating, sleeping, recovering, but just to a high standard. And obviously training my fucking hard, training correctly, training to a high quality, which is what most people kind of slack on there. But good morning, 10 days out, I've touched base with you in a little bit and take you through how my day looks 10 days out. Let's get it. Right, good morning, people. A power hour done, as I like to say. The first meal is about to get chefed up, and I'll show you what that is. But a little update on where we are. So obviously we're 10 days out. Today we've actually got a low day going in. So actually, pretty much, yeah, what we would eat on rest days when it comes to kind of carb intake, on training day today. So that's what we've got going today. A 1900 calorie full day of eating going down, which is 190 protein, 175 carb, and 50 grams of fat going down today. Our usual baseline training day diet will be around that 275 grams. So reason being for that is we have just been really kind of battered and kind of in the trenches, as they say, these last kind of few days to a week, to be honest with you. Just a lot of kind of fatigue being present there, especially just been in contest shape for so long. Like, it is a massive stressor on the body, and training pretty much has just been kind of put me in a hole. So yeah, so pretty much like I was just pretty battered, to be honest, like the last like kind of week. Feeling a lot fresher now, definitely not back to kind of anywhere near sort of 100% per se. Still feeling a little bit battered, but a lot better than what I was pretty much. So these last kind of few training sessions have just been kind of reserve training sessions, D-volume, reps from reserve, and we've got the exact same today, so probably the last of that. Also we're 10 days out as well, so the kind of peak week training, kind of more reserve training, will be kind of commencing soon as well. But we'll hopefully have like a couple of like kind of full volume sessions before that starts as well. So and yeah, today we've got D volume, 1 to 2 reps in reserve, keeping it at bay there and just letting us kind of fatigue wash off. Like, as the days have been going on, just been feeling a little bit better, a little bit fresher. But yeah, it kind of just caught up to us because like this is the longest gap that we've went without like kind of putting our foot on the brake pedal, if that makes sense, when it comes to kind of training intensity, because also we had a lot of shows that would kind of line up well with like kind of pulling back training, peak week, etc. And also the show day itself kind of acted as a kind of deload in a sense. And also we kind of just haven't had that in a good few weeks now, and especially just being in contest shape. Like, we just need to pull back regularly when it comes to training intensity, or else I'm going to be pretty much just in a hole like I was. So pretty fatigued. Like, the kind of baseline training day macros plan that we had in place, which was kind of pulling my weight down slightly, actually just started to kind of the scale just started to rise. So we were pretty heavy this morning. I just saw 64 kilos. So that's why I've got that low day going in. The last few days, like, body weight has just been dropping slightly, but you can actually load it today because it isn't necessarily like a food or fullness problem. Like, it is just a fatigue standpoint from just kind of burying myself in training in that regard. So steps have been pulled right down as well. 6k steps been the last few days, and will be the exact same today. So that's exactly where we're at. We've been a little bit cooked, a lot of fatigue present, but kind of just, I wouldn't say kind of getting to the finish line now, but obviously, because obviously we've still got a show to do, but it is kind of in that sense regard, that just kind of keeping the body fresh in that regard. So foot firmly on the brake pedal the last kind of few days, and kind of been chilling out, trying to kind of rest, recover as much as possible, let this fatigue kind of just go by, as they say. So that's where we're at today. We've got a low day, full day of eating, 175 grams of carbs on a training day, and a little reserve pull session. So that's where we're at. But we'll run you through the meals today, full day of eating. What I kind of want to talk about was kind of just when it comes to kind of nutrition and kind of creating your meal plan, or not your meal plan, but just creating your kind of nutritional plan as a whole, kind of some guidelines to follow. So first of all, obviously kind of deciding how much you need to eat. So the best bet is going to be, obviously, if you're going to a gaining phase, deficit, etc., is knowing where your sort of maintenance lies, and that'll, you'll be able to dictate, you know, how much calories, then from there how much macros you need to eat. So when it comes to gaining in a surplus, we want to be in a small calorie surplus over a long period of time, which will result in the most progress and the most opportunity to build new muscle tissue with the least amount of body fat gain. If you are in too high of a surplus, you're just going to gain a lot of unnecessary body fat, which can lead to you to having to pull back your gaining phases short, leading to less opportunity to progress in the gym, put on new muscle tissue, and progress your physique forward. So making sure we're in a small calorie surplus, obviously that is going to be extremely person dependent, but you'll kind of need to find a calorie range that will, you know, that you'll lie in between a rough kind of rate of gain. I would like to see is that kind of 0.2 to 0.3 kg per week. Obviously, depending if you're just reversing a diet, that rate of growth might be a little bit more on the higher end, even larger than that, of course.
But it doesn't even have to be on a weekly basis, especially when clients are deeper into a gaining phase. Like, I don't even necessarily worry about the week to week gain, but more so the month to month gain, making sure that you're gaining at a sort of kind of steady, controlled, and where you want to see that body rise month to month to month, is how I like to view it. So as rough guidelines, I would get a calorie goal in place. So obviously weighing yourself every single day, because there is going to be weight fluctuations, taking the average for the weeks, comparing that on a weekly basis, making sure you are gaining at a steady rate and the kind of rate of growth that you want to see, getting that calorie range for that. Obviously, if you're not gaining, if you're maintaining that weight on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, then obviously that is, merit to increase the calories. And the exact opposite, if your weight's going up too fast, then bring back down the calories. As there's kind of common sense when it comes to that. It's just making sure that you are tracking your body weight every single day, and you are making sure that every single day you are eating those and being consistent with those macros and calorie intake, which is super important. So get the calories in place, however many calories that may be. Then from there, you need to split it into also how much protein, how much fat, and how much carbs. So when it comes to protein, anywhere between that kind of 1 to 1.3 gram per pound of body weight will be sufficient, and then fats 0.3 to 0.5 grams per pound as well will be sufficient there, and then the rest of the calories will be via carbohydrates. And then when it comes to kind of splitting the kind of macronutrients between your meals, just making sure you're having at least 4 meals per day, just so you are spiking MPS throughout the day evenly. Anywhere between 4 to 6 meals, I think, is your best bet. Obviously, it's kind of just what you can stick to on a daily basis and what you prefer as well, will be your best bet there. Making sure protein, you're pretty much just splitting that evenly between your meals. Fats, you can kind of relatively split that evenly as well. There's no kind of, I would just say maybe pre-bed, a little bit more fats in there, and you'll be good. But apart from that, that can be relatively split evenly, or just kind of what you prefer. In carbohydrate intake, I would just prioritize that around your pre-workout and your pre-bed meal, especially. Post-workout as well, if carbs are high, you can have a little bit in there, but it's not a sort of need in there. So that's kind of rough guidelines when it comes to your meal plan, when it comes to formulating the nutritional plan for yourself. Follow those guidelines and you'll be more than good. But it's making sure as well that you're making your meals enjoyable, you're having a variety of food as well. I would try and have like 3 to 4 sources of a protein source, carb source, fat source, fruit and veg as well. Personally, as you see with this full day of eating, I have about 500 grams of fruit per day and 350 grams of veggies. I was just making sure you're having at least 300 grams of each, and a good variety of each in there as well. So that is a nutritional chat this morning. Going to actually go make my first meal because it's time for meal number 1, as it is 8 a.m, which means meal number 1 time. So I shall see you when I've got that shift up. Right, meal number 1 is here. Let's freaking get it. You know what it is. Let me just show you what we have. Yay. 60 grams of whey, 15 grams of dark chocolate, and 100 grams of raspberries in there, with 1.5 grams of salt in there. And I've also got Fuad's podcast on as well, of course. Now, when it comes to your nutrition and your meals, making sure you're putting a bit of effort into them. You actually want to eat your meals. Like, every single one of my meals, I look forward to a certain extent. Like, it's not a kind of, high level of food focus to actually want to eat your meals, because at the end of the day, if you don't want to eat your meals, and you almost kind of dread them, then you're going to want to eat off plan, etc. But there's literally nothing else that I would rather have than my meals. Therefore, I don't even think about eating anything off plan. That's a big tip when it comes to your adherence. Now, as I said, got a little podcast on as well. That's something I like to do. The way you eat your meals will be a massive factor towards how it digests, and therefore how you actually utilize the food as fuel. So make sure that you are staying on top of that. You're chewing your food at least 20 to 30 chews per kind of spoonful. What I like to use as well, as you can see, I use like a little spoon, just to make sure I'm kind of taking my time, I'm being present with my meals. And that's another tip, is that's why I kind of put a podcast on as well. It's like something I can just chill, watch. I doesn't need necessarily 100% my focus. I can be present with my meal, and just making sure that you're sitting in a relaxed environment state as well, chilling out eating your meals, which will be a massive factor towards how you digest your meals. Final tip before we head off and eat this is your salt intake. Make sure you're actually salting your meals. You don't necessarily need to weigh it out every single day and be that kind of meticulous with it. I do that because I personally like that, but just make sure you're having a consistent amount every single day. You are actually salting your meals just for that kind of consistent sodium intake, which is super important when it comes to hydration and just overall electrolyte balance for yourself as well. If you're having big fluctuations of sodium, like that's going to be a big factor towards you holding water and stuff like this. So just make sure you are being consistent with that. Realistically, anywhere between 4 to 10 grams of salt per day. Just make sure you are being consistent with it. And if you've not weighed out your salt before, you'll probably be surprised of how much salt you actually need. So making sure you're salting your meals as well. Right, we're back. Check-in's finished. Clients responded to, which is absolutely lovely. Morning work block ticked off, and we are just chefing up the second meal of the day, which will be the pre-workout meal, which is absolutely lovely. Now, what I wanted to come on and talk about is don't be afraid to try things. Do not be afraid to try things, no matter what that might entail regarding your own process, your training especially. Now, what you need to realise is that pretty much anything and everything works in bodybuilding to a certain extent. You will make progress if you simply just have the basics nailed down. Now, when it comes to the intricacies, I can't say the word, but when it comes to the 1%, within bodybuilding, you know, yes, they can result in a lot more progress, but for a lot more effort, if that makes sense. Now, what I mean by that is just don't be afraid to try things. Like, if everything does not need to be optimized for your process. Now, you know, the information I give out and how I go about the process is, you know, I am someone who wants to maximize their progress. I am someone who wants to, you know, be the best version of myself. Therefore, you know, I do focus on the 1% because I want to make as much progress as possible. That's also the way I enjoy going about the process of bodybuilding. Now, for some people, they might not enjoy that. So don't do that. You know, don't force yourself to go about the process the way that someone else might, because that might not be the way that's sustainable long term for yourself. Now, just realise that there's so many ways to go about this process when it comes to training, nutrition, etc. And everything should be taken with a pinch of salt to a certain extent. But most importantly, just be your own experiment. Find what works for you. Find what you enjoy the most as well, which will be the most important, because at the end of the day, that will result in a lot of progress. So just going to finish up making this meal, but last kind of point on nutrition that I wanted to talk about was, also we kind of touched on it earlier, was just how to, when it comes to increasing your food over time as well, when you're in a gaining phase, off season, bulk, improvement phase, whatever you want to call it. We also talked about when to increase our food, but how to increase our food. So mainly when you're pushing up, the main food increase is going to come from carbohydrate intake. And obviously we talked about, as I just said, when to increase your food, which is also very important. And realistically, I would be more on the kind of cautious side, because realistically you can always add in more food, you know, but if you're gaining too fast, etc., yes, you can pull food back down, but that's obviously going to lead to too much fat gain as well, which is going to, you know, you can't just strip off fat that easily. And when you're in a gaining phase, obviously that's going to have to wait through diet. But realistically, I would be mainly via carbohydrate intake and increasing that over the weeks, over the months. I would look to once again be a bit more on the cautious side. So per food increase, I would be looking at a kind of 25 to 50 grams of carb food increase at a time. And once again, be more on the cautious side, because you can always add in a little bit more food. Realistically, your protein and fats will probably stay similar from the start of your gaining phase to the end of your gaining phase. A little bit of variance there for multiple reasons, especially when it comes to, you know, protein and fats. They're going to be the most kind of satiating in that regard, so that's obviously something to kind of take into consideration. But that is a pre-workout chat. Going to finish making up this meal and I'll show you what we have. Voila, meal number 2, pre-workout meal going down. We have got 100 veg, 150 chicken, 75 rice, 20 gram dark chocolate, and 100 grams of pineapple. We've also got our intra workouts here. EA is in here, bit of carbs in there, cyclodextrin, and then creatine and hydroflow in there. Big bush. Right, now the pre-workout meal going down. 10 days out, pull session going down as we discussed this morning. Few reps in reserve, D-volume, still going to enjoy it though. Just grateful to be healthy, still being able to train, even though I'm a little bit cooked in a minute, but feeling a lot better as well. So yeah, that is where we're at. I'm honestly very, very excited for going out to America. It's becoming a little bit more real now, you know, 10 days out, just getting everything organised for the show and stuff. And I'm honestly looking forward to kind of just almost like, because obviously I go on Wednesday, compete Saturday, then I go home the following Wednesday, so we're there for a week, which is pretty crazy. But you know, the after the show will pretty much just be like a few days in America, in LA, Los Angeles, and it'll pretty much just be like a little holiday, and it'll be a good way to end the prep. I feel like even just mentally kind of switching off for a few days, enjoy some nice food with the boys as well. It'll just be really good, like kind of wholesome way to end the prep, and then obviously straight back on pan after we get home. We'll still be on pan after the show, just enjoying a bit of food, which will be nice. So yeah, we are 32 weeks deep into contest prep now. 10 days left, which is absolutely crazy. It's been literally 8 months of my life in prep. Like, once again, nothing changes, and I'm also going to take you through the post-show phase, recovery phase, and then also transition into the off-season and showing you how to do it properly and how we're going to make a lot of progress, because that's what I'm hungry for, post-show progress. Come on. Pool wrapped up, 10 days out, completed. Not many sessions left of the 2025 contest prep, which is absolutely crazy, which takes me on to my first point I want to discuss, is just being present within your process. And if you've been following my prep, hopefully you kind of took away a lot of positive things that I've kind of yapped about, which is just loving the daily process and being process orientated, and also just being present, especially in prep. When I've just got 10 days left, it's very easy to just be focused on the future, what's to come. But here's your reminder to, no matter where you are in your process, even if you're deep into an off season, etc., where it might be monotonous, like, just be present and be focused on where you are at now. And that's something that I feel like even from the start that I've been yapping on about, and something that I tried my best to continue to think about, is just being present. And when you're in prep, when you're 2 weeks out, 5 days out, 3 weeks out, you're counting down the days. It's very easy to live in the future. So here's your reminder to just be present during whatever phase you're in, and that's exactly what I'm trying my best to. So enjoying these last little sessions. As we discussed, a reserve session, but still, I'm just very fortunate to be in the gym training, and the off-season training is right around the corner, and I'm very excited to document that as well. But for now, we're focused on the task at hand. So pool session wrapped up. Very, very fun session. Post-workout shots were decent, definitely better than yesterday and the day previous. We were pretty heavy the last couple of days, which we also discussed. Just holding a little bit of water in the physique, but that seems to be kind of washing off pretty well. And I'm excited to kind of start this next week and kind of see, the final package that we shall bring to the world stage, which will be very, very cool to see and document on here, the final look of the 2025 season, which will be the 6th show this season as well. And the last thing I want to talk about before we head over to the post-workout meal is just to celebrate your small wins, no matter what they may be. The challenges that you may face within your process, making sure to celebrate and pat yourself in the back with the small wins that you achieve. Something that's very easy to me, like following a meal plan, etc., might be extremely hard for someone else. When you, for example, you might have a really negative and bad relationship with your food, you may struggle to adhere to a meal plan, stick to a meal plan. And if you go through a day, go through a week, go through a couple of months where you've been a little bit more consistent, you've adhered to the plan a little bit more, and that's something that you struggle with, like, pat yourself in the back and celebrate that small win, because what that will do is it will almost give you that sense of kind of dopamine, and it will produce like a positive feeling. Like, you feel like you've won, you've succeeded in something, and that will carry you along, and that momentum will carry you on to continue to tick the boxes and continue to have these kind of positive compounding effects, which will, at the end of the day, lead to you adhering to the plan a lot more if that's something you struggle with. Once again, that's just like an example that I'm bringing up here, but it can be with anything within your own process, within your life. So make sure to celebrate your small wins, pat yourself in the back where need be, but also always strive to be better and progress forward. So pool wrapped up, 10 days out, post-workout meal, which will be minimal carbs, just vibes, as I like to say. 200 grams of 5% steak mince, 150 grams of veggies coming from spinach and green beans, and 100 grams of raspberries, which is absolutely beautiful. So that is meal number 3, post-workout. And then we've got one more meal, which I'll take you through later on, and that'll be the video wrapped up. So that is all. Pool session wrapped up. One of the final sessions in prep, realistically. Got another kind of like full week of training, which is very cool and kind of surreal to look back at, which I'll say multiple times in this video. But that is all. I shall see you later tonight for the final meal of the day, which is the best meal of the day also.
So let's get it.
We are back for the final meal of the day. Meal number 4, the pre-bed meal, the best meal of the day. Going down, let me show you what we have. Whoosh! The pre-bed cream of rice, absolutely beautiful. Lovely stuff. Prepared cold, of course. It's been lying in the freezer. Got some veggies and beef on the side as well. Some blue light blockers, some bro chat, and the final serving of magnesium. Absolutely goated setup going down. So, just like that, another day dusted. 10 days out. And if you take away one thing from this video, the process is a motherfucking prize. This is where, this is why we do it. You know what I'm saying? Even when I'm stage condition approaching a show, it's still about the process. It's still about the meals every single day, training. That's where you get the most fulfillment. The stage is just a byproduct of it all. But a week till we fly out to LA, which is very exciting. It's getting real now. You obviously saw how we're looking as well. The peak is around the corner, which is very good. And also, I'll be continuing to document these vlogs and document the whole trip out in LA. So very excited for that. So good night all. Appreciate you watching. Let's freaking get it. Goodbye.